Hi, and welcome back to another edition of the InTouch Machine Edition training video series. This is an introductory video or an introduction video, and we're going to provide basically a brief introduction to InTouch Machine Edition. We'll give you pointers on where you can find the major pieces and tools in the development environment. Upon the completion of this course, you should be able to find where the major interfaces are in the development environment. If you lose dockable windows, you should be able to get those back. And we're going to create a simple test application with a couple of screens. So what's the agenda? We will do a quick product overview. We'll dive into the help system a little bit, not in too much detail, just to show you where things are at. We'll build a simple project with a couple of screens. One screen will have a slider and a bar graph. Second screen will have a button and a lamp. Then we'll create some navigation to go between those screens, and we'll create an exit button on there. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's open up InTouch Machine Edition here. And this should only take a couple of seconds. It starts up pretty quickly. And once this gets going, we'll see the splash screen there. Oh, by the way, if you didn't know this, the product comes with a demo pre-installed that not only acts as a kind of a sales tool, but it can be a nice technical reference. So if you want to find out how we did something, you can take a look in here and see how we did it. I'll just quickly go ahead and test that and show it to you. Here is the demo. And I can go through a navigation, which gets me into these two major sections here, or I can just use these as buttons. So I can go into, let's say, this packaging line here. I can take a look to see how some of that works. I can go back screen, go into, let's say, the blending area, turn on pumps and motors and things of that nature. Or I can go back and take a look at the individual features and see how that works. I'm not going to go through everything here, just want to make sure that you knew that it was available and at your disposal. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new project. I can do so by looking at this quick, so what is this called? Quick Access Toolbar. I can click on New here, or I can go to the File icon and click on New. Either way, it's kind of the same thing. I'm going to create a project. Let's call this Introduction. And for the sake of this project, I'm just going to pick 1,000 tags. You can see the different license levels that we have. There's 100 tags, 500, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. I'm going to pick 1,000, although I'm not going to use nearly that many here. And for the sake of this project, I could choose any resolution, including custom resolutions. But for the sake of this project, I'm just going to pick 1024 by 768. That's a common resolution found in industrial computers. So I'm going to do that, and what that'll do is set up our default, so any new screens that we create will have that resolution. I'll come back to that concept in just a second. Across the top here, you'll find these tabs on this ribbon that I mentioned in the preparation video. We have the View tab, the Insert, Project, and Help, and then these different groups here for these different tools. If I right-click and insert a screen here in the Project Explorer, you can see that 1024 by 768. Notice here that we can also have pop-up screens and dialogues, and their natures and behaviors are outlined in the help system as well. I'm just going to leave this as Replace Partial as the default, and click on OK. That creates my screen there. This Project Explorer window here is where we're going to spend a lot of time. We're going to see here in the Graphics tab. Notice there's 4 different tabs down here. The Graphics tab and Screen Development is probably where you're going to spend most of your time doing development in a project. Here into the Global tab, obviously those are things that are global to your project. The tags, here's the datasheet view, which we don't have any tags in our project yet. We can copy and paste or import from other tools and utilities. If we can go ahead and manually type those in here. If we don't have tags in there, if we're using them on a screen and it realizes, hey, you don't have that tag, it will automatically prompt you to create that tag. We can create classes, which are like structures. We can have system tags. Now, system tags are things like date and time and year of, or day of the year, security levels, things of that nature. What range are you in? Things of that nature, and those do not count against your tag count. Security is set up here at the global level. Procedures, you can have main procedures that are function calls and subroutines using VB script. And the events and translation, Again, back here on graphics, you'll see the screen groups, and here's where we can also get at our symbol library. Tasks are things like alarm set points, trend logging, where you would configure your recipes and reports. Math is your built-in scripting language, and the script area is where you would have either your startup script or possibly inserting other background VB scripts type things. Scheduler, you can do things based on date and time, or on a frequency, on a periodic rate, if you will, and then also based on triggering tags. And then database is one of a couple different ways to set up your databases as well. There's other ways to do that. But then here under communications is where you would install drivers, configure OPC clients, and then enable TCP/IP worksheets to be able to communicate between different InTouch Machine Edition workstations. So let's, continuing on around here, here's the database spy. Now this lets you view and interact with tags, and not only tags, but notice this says tag/expression. You can put expressions in here and test your logic. Let's say something's not working like you think it should on your screen. Well, go ahead and put that expression in here and see if your logic is correct. Maybe your logic isn't even correct, so that's a way that you can do that. And I'll jump here into the system tags. For example, the seconds clock in my PC is tied to my seconds clock in my PC. I can just down here in the database spy type in second, and you can see that it's going to report back the seconds, and this should get up to 59 and then roll back around to 0. So 56, 7, 8, 9, back to 0. So again, just to show you a little bit about how the database spy works. Notice that there's a few different tabs down here. There's 4 different tab views of the database spy that maybe as you're working on logical section of your machine or your process, you can put different tags in those different tabs. And then there's some other tabs down here about the VB script debugging and how you can see the variables within that. Also over here is an output window, and this is also for troubleshooting. You can set up things like to monitor your field read and write commands to PLCs, temperature controllers, drives, things of that nature. You can even watch using a protocol analyzer and see the actual commands that are going in and out of the cable, if you will. You can monitor some communication, security, database errors when screens are open and closed. And I would always suggest that you insert the date and time so you can understand chronologically how things came in what order. Also in here you can log tags. You can choose a tag name or multiple tag names in here, and then see every time it changes a value, it can show you that. So really very helpful tool in trying to troubleshoot. Again, across the top here we have the Home tab that gets you into some local management, and as we start developing or deploying to the remote devices, this allows you to connect to those remote devices and not only start and stop and download, but you can license the workstations remotely as well. Verify, which helps clean up the database. There's different import tools and some tag tools as well. I wanted to point out here in the view, you can actually zoom in and fit to window and things like that. We're going to get more into this interface in another video. I just want to give you some quick pointers. So let's say that you've undocked the database spy. You can use these standard Windows interfaces tools here to dock it wherever you want, but let's say that you used it here and you forgot, how do I get it back down there? Or maybe you've closed it, or maybe for example here in the Project Explorer you can auto hide this, and so I can give myself some good screen real estate and work on this. And let's say that now I want to get things back to the way that they were. So here in the View tab you can turn these tools back on, but that doesn't necessarily put them back to where they were. You can just click on this Restore Default and it'll put everything back to the way that it was. So it's a handy tool there. Another tool that's not checked by default is this Zoom box. So let's say that you wanted to do some really fine editing. You can use this to zoom in around the cursor. You can see that little center point there. Well, that's where the cursor is zooming in. You can double click, left click, and that will zoom in, give a more of a zoom level, or you can double right click and that will zoom back out. So you can see how you can adjust the zoom level of that. So if you need to do some fine editing, you can use that tool as well. We'll cover most of these in future videos, but I just wanted to show you where most of this stuff was. While you're here on a screen, we previously when we created this application, it automatically opened up a screen. And if you need to insert a new screen, let's say I can right-click and click Insert, and here's my default resolution. When I started this project, I can click on OK, and here's my screen kind of workspace area. Here under the Graphics tab, and this Graphics tab will only be viewable when you have a screen open. Here's where I can insert shapes, active objects, data objects, and then put animations onto those some of those shapes and objects. So for example, I want to create a bar graph here. I'm going to grab this rectangle shape, and when it first starts out, that's all it is a rectangle. I can change the border, the color of it, what type it is. I can change the background color, whether it's fill or unfilled, and I can add text to that as well. Well, in order to make this a bar graph, I have to go over here to the animations, and while this is selected, I would need to click on bar graph. Now the way this system works is if you take a look at this rectangle, and now we've applied this bar graph animation to that, and you can see how that's indented there. I can apply multiple animations to objects, and some objects will let you apply different animations. You can see how the text data link and the rotation is grayed out. I can't do those on this particular object, but I can apply a color, a visibility position, and a resize to this. And notice how this all starts out with that one rectangle, and it has the resize, visibility, position, bar graph, and color animation to it. So I can apply all those simultaneously. Also, something to note is I can turn these off. These are just like check boxes, and I can click on those and unselect those. So I'm going to put this back to just the rectangle with a bar graph animation on it. And here in the bar graph animation, I'm going to tie this to a tag. Now, I don't have any tags in my system yet. Again, I mentioned earlier I could have imported those or copied and pasted them from, let's say, Excel, or just manually created those in my tag database worksheet area. Here I'm going to create a new tag called level, and that tag doesn't exist. So when I hit enter, it's going to prompt me. It says, hey, tag level doesn't exist. Do you want to create it? I'm going to say yes. And here I have the choice of making it a Boolean, an integer, a real type, or a string. I'm going to leave that as integer. I have the choice of making it an array, putting in a description in here. We'll talk more about tags in a subsequent video. But here I'm just going to leave this as an integer. And now I need a way to adjust the value of level, the level tag. Since I don't have a PLC hooked up to this application, I'm just going to grab a symbol from our symbol library, and you can see here we've got some push buttons, pilot lights, some different switches, and I'm just going to go ahead and grab a slider. I'm going to grab this slider and tie this slider. I'm going to double click on that and tie this to that tag. Well, I could type that tag in here, or if I'm not on that cell, I can double click on that cell and it'll bring up this object finder, and then I can select the tag called level. And now it's tied to the same tag that this bar graph is tied to, so that's tied to level. And let me give you a quick, before I run this, here under the help system, if I go to help, we'll open this help up here, and here you'll be able to see an interesting diagram about the internal structure and data flow. And if I take a brief look at this, this shows that our tags database is here, and that I can get information from the viewer. This is essentially your screen runtime into the tags database and then back out. So for example, if I slide that slider on the screen, it will write to the tag, and then the tags database will then come back and update the bar graph. If I later then add a driver in, let's say, the driver might be updating that tag, which would then in turn update the slider and the bar graph on the screen. So that's a little bit about how the internal structure and data flow works. Just another quick run through. We can talk about the development environment, the tools, tags, screens, alarms, events and trends, security, and about the built-in scripting language, and then a little bit more on VB-Script, so you can see all the different tools. And again, we're going to cover the technical reference of the help system as we go through the different videos, but I just wanted to show you, make you aware of that. So not only in this contents view, but you can also search for different words that you'd like to search for as well. So now that we've seen some of that, at this point, this project is ready to run because I have these both tied to the same tag. I can save this screen, but I'm going to show you don't even need to do that. Just a quick test on my PC, and normally you would deploy this or download this to a runtime PC, but in this case I'm just going to try this here locally, and you can see that I could use this slider to write to that tag, then the tag in turn updates the bar graph. I don't have any scales or values on here, but just wanted to show you just how quick and easy that was. Now, I don't have a way to get out of here, so I can minimize this, or if you remember from the preparation video, I mentioned that Alt and F4 will shut down the application that has the focus. So I'm going to use Alt and F4. That shuts the viewer down, but you can see that it's still really running in the background. The background task is still really running. So I can stop that here if I wanted to. I'm going to go ahead and save this screen. Now, you have a couple of different ways you can do this. I like to go up here and right-click on this tab and save, or I can close, and it's going to prompt me and say, hey, you haven't saved these changes. Do you want to? And then it's going to prompt me for a name of this screen. When this comes up, I'm just going to name this main. And then one other step that I have to do is tell it which screen to start when I start my project. Now, the real way to do this is here under Project and Viewer, and I would choose my startup screen in here. But I want to show you a shortcut. What we can do is expand this list of screens, and I can right-click here on the name of the screen and set this as Startup. Otherwise, you'll get a gray screen when you start up. If you don't have any startup screens, you just get a blank gray screen. Now that I have that, I want to insert a second screen, and what we're going to do is put a button and a light. There's several different ways to do this, but what I'm going to do is just grab the button object on here, put this on the screen, and maybe we'll call this mode or auto mode. And we need a way to toggle a tag called auto mode. So I can click on the command animation here, or alternatively I could apply the command animation here. We made it nice and convenient so that it's right here and right kind of included in that same object. You can click, and that's the same as applying this command animation up here. You can put built-in scripting language, VB-Script, open screen, close screen, set, reset, and toggle tag. For the sake of this, I'm just going to use toggle tag, and I don't have the tag in there called auto mode yet, so let's go ahead and put it in there. No spaces, and tags must start with a letter. We'll talk more about that in the tag video coming soon. Here is the tag, auto mode, and I'll say hit enter, and it'll prompt me if I want to create that. I'm just going to leave everything as default. No, I'm not. Because this is going to be kind of an on-off thing, I'm just going to make this a Boolean. Click on OK. And that's it for that button. Now we need to be able to see this. So let's go ahead and put an ellipse or a circle on the screen and put a color animation associated with that. Before, this was just an ellipse that I could change the border and I could change the background, and I added the color animation to it, so that's here. And I'm just going to put the limit expression. Now this could be an expression, kind of a bunch of math in here if I wanted to, or I can just put an individual tag. And rather than typing the tag, I'm just going to click on this browse button, choose the auto mode. And by default, if it's 0, it's red, and 1, it turns green. If you're colorblind, I apologize. I'm not going to go into details here, but I will in subsequent videos on how to change text on there to show you that. But this will change red if it's off and green if it's on. So let's go ahead and we'll save this screen as button. And now we need a way to get between those two screens. So we're going to add some navigation. Let's go back to the main screen. The reason I did not do this first is because kind of a shortcut here. If I add a button on the screen and I tell it to go to the button screen, now this is just a label. This is just a caption. This does not functionally tell it to go anywhere. I'm going to have to add a command animation. Again, I can do that here or up here. And once I do that, I can tell it to open a screen. Now here's the kind of the shortcut. I could type in button in here and that would get me to my button screen. Or since I already have that screen saved, and this is why I did it in this order, I can select the browse button. It'll show me the different screens that are available. And that's all I have to do is select it. That way I know I've got it spelled right. I don't mistype it or fat finger it, and I don't have to guess. So that's an easy way to do that. Now we're doing everything all in one screen here. In the rest of the training course, after kind of these examples, we're going to create a navigation menu so you don't have to do this on every single screen. Be a little bit easier. So I'm going to save this screen. Actually, before we do that, something else I want to do is create a way to exit so I don't have to hit that Alt and F4 again. Here in the symbol library under buttons, we have a whole host of buttons that are created for us, one of which is the exit button. I'm just going to double click on that and put this right here, and that will get us out of that. So I'm going to save this, then I'm going to go on the button screen and give myself a way to get out of the button screen and back to the main screen. So let's just go ahead and put that here, and this will be main. And again, that's just a label. I'll add the command animation here to be able to open the screen. Again, I don't want to type it, so we'll go to main, and I think that's all I need. So now I can save this. Again, normally I would download and deploy this to a separate runtime, but here I'm just going to run it locally to test it out. Here again, I can change the value of my bar graph. I can go to the button screen. I can click on that. That toggles this to auto mode being on. I can toggle auto mode being off. And then I can go back to my main screen so you can see how that works. Just a quick point. Let's say I wanted to do some troubleshooting. Right now the value of level is set at 38. If I go here into my database SPY, let's scroll back over here a little bit. Let's see, don't know why I can't get at my database SPY. That's because I was in the locals here. Let's go back here and change this to level. And you'll see that that's set at 38. Let's say I wanted to try something out, and let's say put in a 22 here. If I use my Alt and Tab and go back to my runtime, you can see that that set that to the 22. We can watch that down here. If I change this in here, you can see it change in the database SPY, so you can see how you can work and interact with that. So that's real quickly. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to show. We covered a little bit of tags. We covered some of the graphics. Database SPY, a little bit of the output window. Oh, one of the things I didn't show in the output window, let me go ahead and exit this. And here in the output window, in addition to some of this, you can see not only tags, and I think I brought that up earlier. Let me go ahead and delete this, but there's also this cross-reference, so that here, if I want to find out where did I use the tag called level, I can click on OK, and I can do a cross-reference, and it'll open up this other tab, and it shows me that it used the level tag on two objects, object ID 0 and 1, both on the main screen. If I double-click on that, it will open up the screen, select that object, and bring open the properties where that tag is. So that's a nice way to use that. So that works out really well. And I think that's all I wanted to show you, just a brief overview of introduction to the interface, where some of the tools are, and how to create a very simple application. So thank you. Hopefully you learned something from this, and please continue to watch the remaining videos, and hopefully you get something out of it. Thanks, and have a great day.